actually had it served by my mom at the table away from me. And I had eaten that. And yes, it's not uncommon at all. I'll tell you something that is one of my favorites, is squirrel. And it's wonderful, and my mother could do a great job of it. And we all had our favorite pieces. And my dad and sister, I have one sibling, a sister, and they would fight over, not fight, but my mom and I, they were just, my sister and I as four siblings, my mom and I wouldn't even ask for the brain in a squirrel.
Oh, man.
And delicious, seriously.
My dad loves cow
my
brain.
sister always got it, or my dad.
The fight over the brain.
The fight over the brain. Good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Jobu Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. We are putting things back together here at Jobu's Man Cave. We had a bit of a meltdown yesterday with the internet and things, and that led to some problems with the computer, so we couldn't do our live stream last night. And we're working on getting everything back up to speed. So we are now, everybody is in Indianapolis. We've got the players there, the future future prospects. We've got the coaches, we've got the owners, we've got the GMs, we've got the agents. And this is where a lot of work that goes on happens here. And we've heard some really good things, if we believe it. The question is, do you believe it? Now, Stephen Jones did a lot of talking yesterday, and I pointed out that Stephen Jones now has in his title co-owner of the Dallas Cowboys. Co-owner. This is new. It used to be vice president of operations. Now it's co-owner. I don't know how that changes everything, but it's definitely a change. And Stephen Jones is out front more for the Cowboys, and Jerry Jones has been a lot less. We'll see how this goes as far as the combine. We know Jerry Jones is going to be on the bus hosting reporters and saying Jerry speak and all that. But Stephen Jones is definitely now the face of the franchise as far as management goes. How did we get here? I found a gem that explains a lot to me of Stephen Jones. This was a clip from about 8 years ago where he talked about he almost worked for Wendy's. Oh, shit! Oh, shit! Let's go to the tape on this.
Bent a rule that his father had and thought you wouldn't have to get a regular job if you treated your football-like job. Yeah. Did that plan hit a snag?
Well, first of all, I give him all the credit for understanding my passion for the game of football, and he knew how bad I not only wanted to play at the high school level, but my goal and dream too was to play in college. And he said, if that's what you want to do, then you're going to spend the time and treat it like a job. Well, unfortunately, you asked the question. I had a bad day at work, and I thought he was not in the area. And one of the things was I had to not be around the house. I needed to be working all day. And one day he came home middle of the day. He wasn't out of town, as I suspected, and he came home to me in the swimming pool with a group of about 30 other kids, and we were having a nice little swimming party. And as we were enjoying ourselves in the pool, they were loud. We had music, and I was one of the loudest, enjoying the moment. And as things started to progress, I noticed that people started just staring at my house, and one by one, the octave, the sound level started to drop in the pool, and I said, well, what's going on here? And I looked up, and my father was sitting on the porch, and he was giving me one of these, and I just said, oh my gosh. And I looked around to all my friends, and I said, hey, guys, girls, the party's over. I've got to have a little visit up here with my father. And he said, Stephen, he goes, I've got a suit out of your closet. You go put it on, clean up. And he said, we're going on a little job interview. Well, I had no idea what he was talking about and didn't want to say much because I knew I wasn't in a good position to say anything. And So we got in that car, and he said, well, we're headed over to Wendy's. Mr. Hamra at the time owned the Wendy's, and he was a friend of Jerry's. And
Jerry Hamra.
Said, Jerry Hamra, we're going to pull up, and we're going to have a little visit with Mr. Hamra about you having a job during the day at Wendy's. You need to get your work ethic. Obviously, you couldn't handle being your own boss, so we'll just have you report every morning to Wendy's and see how that goes. So we went in, we met Mr. Hamra. He kind of walked me through the process of the training program and what I'd be doing, cleaning out the grills and the griddles and the grease pits. And of course, I was saying, how have I got myself in this position? And
Saying that to yourself.
saying that to myself. And
we gotten ourselves in this
very
position.
attentive. And at the end of the interview, Mr. Hammer says, well, I think I'll hire you. You've got a job here at Wendy's. Congratulations. Well, I shook my hand. Yes, sir. Thank you. He said, I expect to see you here at 8 in the morning. Well, I think Jerry had a visit with him. We get back in the car. He goes, hey, Stephen, you fired up about this job? And well, yes, sir, I'll be ready to go to work. And he goes, well, you learning anything from this? And I said, yes, I have. And he goes, well, what? And he goes, well, I shouldn't have been home. I should have been working. And he goes, well, you know what? I'm a big believer in, maybe a second chance. Mm-hmm. He said, do you think if, I already talked to Mr. Hammer. We went through the interview. I've already told him that we might going to do this. And he said, if you think you can get it right, I'm going to give you one more chance. And I can promise you I was never within 5 miles of my house for the rest of my summer workouts and jobs during my next 2 years. But it was a valuable lesson. It was certainly a point well made. It was a point that needed to be made. And it's certainly something that I learned from.
Okay. So.
Hey, everybody. I don't know if you're aware.
He came that close to being a Wendy's manager, which makes sense because we know that he has his executive VP for the Cap was a server trainer at Marketplace Grill. And so, yeah. A little insight. So yesterday, Stephen Jones actually was on for 22 minutes doing an interview that, we're talking about. I haven't heard the whole thing. We've heard, pieces of about a minute and a half of it and so on. I started listening to a bit of it because he talks about Brian Schottenheimer and things and where at least the team is headed. Whether you like it or not, Stephen Jones is going to be the owner of the Cowboys. He's already co-owner, and I dare say that each year he's taken more and more pieces of the managing pie here. And that's kind of to be expected because Jerry Jones is in his 80s. And so to actually go through the process of building him up to learn the job and the process is a wise thing as opposed to I'm, Jerry Jones, the owner and everything else, and I make all the decisions, and then he kicks off, and then, okay, now you got to do it, don't know anything about it. So whether you like Stephen Jones or Jerry Jones, it's going to be the Joneses team for the foreseeable future. So get that out of your head that it's going to change. The thing we have to hope for is that Stephen Jones does things differently and forges his own path. So I want to play a little bit this morning of the Stephen Jones interview because, like it or not, he's the guy who's going to be making a lot of these decisions going forward.
Cowboy related, what's the first month of the Brian Schottenheimer era been like for you?
It's been outstanding. I mean, Brian's done a great job. I think he did a great job with the staff. He's very diligent and, how we went about it. He led that process. And, Jerry and I were able to sit in, especially the coordinator interviews. But I think he was very detailed, went very extensive. I don't think he had preconceived ideas. He let the best guys, get the jobs. And, other than the guys we kept internally and that we held on to, it was wide open when he started the process and would pick the best guy.
And your staff is here the whole week. Is that as much learning new schemes or getting a bond between all sides of the ball?
Well, I think all the above. I mean, they're going to be working together and then also looking at players. I mean, this is important, for us to get to know them even better, the new guys, Will and his staff and Jerry and myself, working with Coach Schottenheimer and his staff, I think is really important.
You guys have emphasized a mix of continuity and change on the staff when Brian runs this combine now for the first time as a head coach in terms of evaluating and looking for what you guys want. What do you make of that process so far, and how do you feel like everybody is in terms of being on the same page?
Well, I think it's really good. At the end of the day, one of the things we love about Coach Schottenheimer, and of course Mike McCarthy was too, he's a great communicator. And, the most important thing, from a personnel standpoint for Jerry and I and Will is to understand what type of players, they're looking for that can make them successful in their particular system. So, that's the utmost importance, and big reason why all of them are here is we want to understand, what type of players, fit best theoretically in their scheme, and what we're looking for when we get ready to draft this spring. So, that's the most important thing. But at the end of the day, as long as we can have that communication and understand what we're looking for, I think we can continue to have successful drafts, and I have no doubt that'll happen.
Do you want to get Micah done sooner rather than later? Based, you got CD done in August, you got Dak done right before the season started. Is there an effort to get that done earlier than you've gotten these other ones done?
Yeah, I mean, there's always extenuating circumstances, to these things. And, every contract negotiation's different. I mean, CD, there were still other receivers that were trying to get their deal done, and some of them still hadn't gotten those deals done, as we all know. Dak's deal was, we were working on that, and Dak was in and didn't really affect anything in terms of, what we were doing. He was practicing every day and working hard, and as you know, he's not distracted by things like that. So, the CD deal was just different, and we'll just see how Micah's deal goes. I don't necessarily know that there's a lot of, extenuating situations out there that would precede us from being able to get our hands around something with Micah, but we'll see.
When he says he'd like to see you guys be aggressive, do you and Jerry hear that, like in how you attack free agency and looking to add players?
No, I mean, we're going to be selectively aggressive out here. I mean, we want to obviously our goals historically have been to try to fill as many of your must and needs before the draft, so you can pick best player on your board. Didn't get that totally accomplished last year, but certainly that's always the goal, and every year's different in terms of what those must and needs are. And then you also, have to marry up what's in free agency versus where the draft is heavy, where we can help ourselves in the draft.
You guys have always said that keeping your own is the most important part of free agency. With a guy like Osa, where do things stand with him and your willingness to want to keep him? Yeah, we're certainly working with him right now, working with his agent, and have had productive talks, and we'll see where we end up this week. Is franchise tag a possibility?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the details. Obviously, franchise and transition tags, those are all tools that are used. But, getting into that right now, we're focusing right now on Osan, trying to get a deal done.
Did he just say this week?
Without revealing, obviously, your entire evaluation strategy. When you come to the combine and events like these and get in front of these players, is there something that, whether it be with you or your staff, kind of just players say or do something that impresses you, and maybe they move up and down your board because of it? Yeah, I mean, anytime you get to know a player, they can, they can be influential in a good way, and they can also do some things. Oh, I don't know about that after all, but that's part of getting to know guys, and part of the overall process, evaluation process. It's something we embrace, and that's why we think it's really important, not only for our scouts to be involved in these interviews, but our coaches as well.
With the backup quarterback spot, so you said to David that when you're paying Dak the kind of money you're paying him, it's hard to pay the backup a lot of money. Does his injury history here lately impact that at all to make you think maybe you do need more of a Cooper to remain, or a solid veteran?
Yeah, I mean, we'll evaluate the whole situation. I mean, you're always wanting to have a young guy coming. that's always a preference, and certainly that's something we'll look at in the draft is, to see if there's a young guy to start bringing along again. Obviously, we were focused on Trey there when we traded for him, and he was our young guy, if you will, that we were bringing along. But all of those are things that we'll, start to evaluate with this draft with Coach Schottenheimer, with Coach Shimko, and Clayton in that group. What's available out there, what's going to be in the draft, and make the best, decision in terms of what we're going to have behind Dak.
You mentioned Will a little bit ago. How important is he to what you guys do, and to keep him the way you get your through?
I mean, I'd like to think one of the better things we've done around here is, player acquisition. I think we've had good rosters. I think we've drafted well. I think, Jerry and I's relationship with Will when it comes to that has been fantastic. I think our relationship and how we've designed our evaluation system, communication with the coaches has been outstanding, and I don't expect any of that to change. Obviously, Will's a huge part of that.
When you see what the Eagles in your division winning a Super Bowl for the second time in 8 years, being in the Super Bowl 3 times in 8 years, how much does that drive and influence you guys at all, and to want to get past 7 and 10?
Yeah, you just have to, obviously much respect for them for getting that done. Obviously we get criticized, and rightfully so, for lack of success in the postseason, and then of course certainly weren't pleased with our season this year. We had some challenges, from an injury standpoint, but as Jerry likes to say, the world's smallest violin there. I mean, that's part of our game. People have injuries. I was just talking with John. He had the same situation in San Francisco. So, that's just part of it. But certainly, we're always looking for ways to be better. And what we've done recently with our lack of playoff success, and certainly this year, we certainly understand that and know that we have to, continue to look for ways to be better than that. Is that good?
Zach Martin reportedly retiring. You obviously can't, find another Zach Martin out there just like that.
No, you don't. Find Hall of Famers on the corner.
Right.
But
Not too easily.
he's a special man. Yeah, and I just, at the end of the day, it's not a total surprise. I mean, we communicate with our guys, and so that wasn't something that we looked up and said, boy, that's a shocker. I mean, we kind of saw it coming, but, Zach's had an amazing career, and you just don't replace, he's certainly a great player on the field, but, his leadership and the man he was off the field was a huge part of what he was, in that offensive line room and, for our team in terms of being a special individual.
The other part of that draft class is DeMarcus, and he's facing maybe similar situations. What have even discussions been like with him?
Yeah, we'll have more discussions this week. I mean, I don't want to get out in front or assume anything one way or the other with D-Law. I'm sure, he can speak to that. That's the way we like to leave it. Just as Zach spoke for himself on, when he was going to retire, we'll have the same respect for DeMarcus Lawrence, and I'm not aware of anything right now other than that he's playing.
Yeah. Stephen, didn't want to interrupt the Cowboys talk.
No, go ahead.
The competition, I was kind of working on a story. I don't know, maybe it's boring or not. I don't know. But I think when you have all these rules proposed, whether it's by you guys, your concepts, or teams proposed them, I'm wondering what's the hardest part of it, going from that conceptualization to getting other teams on board and getting a rule passed, whether it's a rule or financial stuff that gets dealt with by the owners?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, at the end of the day, you have our staff, which is just outstanding, at the league level, that are monitoring and keeping all the members of the competition committee abreast on things that should be looked at. And so you have that process, and then that's the most valuable thing about being in a league with 31 others, the clubs. They certainly see things, and they bring things to our attention that are usually well thought out, but sometimes there's the old term unintended consequences, that we have to look at as a committee. So most of the time those teams understand it.
Well, he didn't do the air
for
quotes.
some reason, something they present, or a lot of times things they present don't actually go in, to a rule or a bylaw or whatever that may be. But we certainly welcome and we pay a lot of attention to any suggestions that come from the teams.
What building consensus is a hard thing.
Yes.
32 teams. How do you bridge those gaps?
I think it's just sitting in a room and talking through it. I mean, it starts, with the hours that the competition committee puts in on it. Mm-hmm. And if, normally if we can't build a consensus in there, then it's going to be even more difficult to do it on the floor. But, I give the league, credit. I think most teams respect, the time and the effort that the staff puts in and the competition committee puts in to looking at these things. And, if we can't come out of a room with a near unanimous support, or the other way around, near unanimous not supportive, then I think that affects the teams and, affects the way they look at voting on something and understand it.
The last thing on this topic, what would you say in your time has been the issue or rule that maybe was the most contentious and, that actually got facilitated, maybe got passed?
Well,
is there one that comes to mind?
That's interesting. You need to give me a heads up so I can think about that for a while. I can't necessarily just come up with one right off the top of my head, but
okay, 2 or 3 then. Make it harder for you.
You could come back, but any of these rules, the biggest thing is we're trying to protect players, and the player health and safety's at the forefront, and it's interesting sometimes even the players don't like the rules you put into place, like the hip drop tackle. There was a lot of pushback on that at first, so it was controversial. And how do you expect me to tackle a guy? I'm fighting for my life, and now you're limiting how I get to get a hold of a guy. And so all those things are interesting, but they're just challenges, and you meet them head on, and you go through it all. I mean, the commissioner's always got great challenges, things he sees that he wants addressed, and certainly are things that we look at or try to convince him that, hey, maybe that's not so good. And he's a great listener, and he sits in all these meetings, and he's an outstanding resource, obviously. Hey, what are you late for?
Take a nap. Take an afternoon nap.
David, you can't come. You've already done this.
You've been in the Dallas market a long time. When you see what's happening to the Mavericks and their fan base, what's your reaction to stuff like that?
We have to worry about the Cowboys. I mean, I have nothing but respect for the Mavericks and what Mark's done, and now the Adelsons, nothing but respect. And it'd be unfair for me to make any comment about someone else's business and, what they're doing. We've got our hands full with our own, and certainly we've got a lot of wood to chop and work to do here. And
I tell you what,
but
we'll
nothing
go
but
ahead
respect for that franchise and what they've accomplished.
You see the fans get your fans get a little upset too.
Really?
Well, hold up.
But to see the fans respond the way they did, going outside the arena with caskets and
yeah, like I said, I don't really want to comment on the Mavericks. I understand. I want ours to be emotional, and I want them to care. I mean, certainly, the record we had last year, and our postseason lack of success, if you will. I understand that completely. I want them to be emotional about that, and we have to be better. And we're always looking for ways to improve our team and, how to take the next step. I mean, certainly, we've been through a lot this offseason already with Coach Sottenheimer and him hiring the staff, and now our preparation for, the personnel side of things as we come up here to the Combine. Obviously, it's a place where everybody meets with all the representatives of the potential free agents. So a lot of work going on right now, but something we embrace. And, we just want to bring that success in the postseason and ultimately a championship to our fan base. They deserve it, and certainly deserve to, be critical and emotional about it.
What do you say to them? What do you say to the fans, though, that specifically this
I keep trying to
offseason
leave
see
this.
you guys be more aggressive?
That we're going to look at everything we can. We're going to be selectively aggressive.
That's the new term. That's the second
there's
time.
Things in this league, you have to, you have certain amount of resources they allow you to have, and we'll look at that. But we're going to try to improve our football team. Not try. We're going to improve our football team.
We're going to improve our football team.
We expect to have success next year.
What's the impact of the cap going up 277 to 281?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously gives every team more room, and in a lot of cases, which it should, it can drive the market up on individual players in terms of what they would have gotten versus, when it goes up a little more than maybe the teams had expected. But certainly, from our viewpoint, it gives us, some more flexibility in terms of what we can do.
It allows you to be more selectively aggressive. I don't know I think that was the term used.
Yeah.
Does it give you more options, I guess?
Yeah, certainly. And, looking at our own guys as well as, free agents, potential free agents.
He said, look at
Obviously,
potential. Oh, my God.
It really improved our football team through a couple of trades. And so there's a lot of ways to, do your player acquisition. And, we'll continue to look at all avenues.
With Osa in particular, I mean, is the defensive tackle position one that, because it's been tough in the draft, that you have to prioritize that even more in free agency?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Osa's a really good football player. He's a homegrown guy who we think's a really good football player, and that's why we believe trying to work on getting him signed.
Lawrence, been with you a long time. Is it difficult to manage what he might do with you guys at all?
No, I mean, we think the world of D-Law. I mean, that guy's laid it on the line for us for years and years and years, and nothing but respect for him. And, it's no different. Every situation's a little different, but he's been right there along with the Tyron Smiths and the Zach Martins, and, think so much of those guys and what they've done over their careers and the successful career they've had. And we'll obviously be sitting down with D-Law and his representatives and see what he's thinking.
As an ownership group, is apathy
Sounds like they want
the worst case scenario, and you guys haven't had to deal with that even through not having the playoff success. But
I guess you weren't standing here. That's what I said. I want them to have emotion. I mean, apathy is what you don't want, and certainly we understand the emotion involved, and we want our fans to love our team, and we also want them to have emotion when we don't deliver great results, which 7-10 is not acceptable from our viewpoint, and the lack of success in the postseason is certainly something that's frustrating for us as well that we want to do something about.
You haven't had a chance to work with Brian yet in this setting at the Combine. But
as a head coach, I've gotten to work with Brian up there looking at players, but not as a head coach.
I was just wondering, what have you been able to tell? Will he be in more interviews than some head coaches have done, or are there any differences?
Yeah, it's just tough to tell yet because we hadn't started it. The process. I mean, the biggest process I've been involved with Brian is, him hiring his staff, and that's been outstanding. I mean, he's done a hell of a job and been impressive, and really think, he's off to a great start. I love the staff that he's put together, and now we'll get with those guys together, see if we can get some better football players for this team. One or two more, Gus, huh?
You do a lot of interviews here?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. You get a lot of them.
Do the chart on who you want to talk to?
Yeah, we'll just pick guys that we want to visit with, and they tape them all, so we get to see them as well. So there's a lot of times we don't get to a lot of them, Jerry and I don't, but we ultimately get to see them, through the draft process.
So, as you look back to last year, is there the regret of the approach you guys took in free agency of letting the guys go and not being able to, when you know now the results of what happened during the course of the season?
Trying to think the best way to say this.
This is the clip that you always say.
I'm not making, at the end of the day, no excuses. But, when you have the injuries we had, it's difficult. And so, you just, that makes it hard. And we're going to obviously look at everything we do in terms of, how we go about making this team better, how we improve the roster, and you always look for ways to improve, and that's what we're going to do. All good?
Here we go.
Thanks, guys.
All right, I'm going to say, okay, talk is cheap.
Yesterday marked the 3-year anniversary.
Okay. Sorry. Talk is cheap. We all know that, okay? But there's some things in here that are different than before. First of all, they got the whole staff there, and he said to find out the type of players that the coaches want. Find the kind of players that the coaches want. That's for their input. They want to get Micah done. without a doubt. You know, he's recognizing that sometimes it's beyond our control. It's not just us not wanting to, okay? And they're also, I think I kind of got a hint of, we're working on OSAs and we'll see this week. So it sounds like they're trying to get OSA done this week, which is important because you don't want to become a free agent the following week. We literally have 2 weeks before free agency starts. It's the 10th, okay? And he said, we're going to improve our team and looking at free agents as well as our guys. Okay, so we're recognizing that we're going to be needing to get some free agents. And talking to D-Law, it sounds like they want D-Law back as well. And he also admitted that Brian Schottenheimer put together the staff. That this is Brian Schottenheimer's. And typically, you think about when Mike McCarthy came in, it was like, Mike McCarthy, you're the head coach. And here's your offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. And a lot of the same people that they already had here were here in place. They had their kitty guys that they wanted to make sure stayed here. So I'm going to say this is a change, major change, for the Cowboys in how they are doing stuff. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm just getting sucked in with the bullshit and all that. But I got to at least believe. I got to have some hope. Alrighty, good people. Hopefully we can get the rest of this thing back together and I can get my upload speed back up to speed so it won't take all day to get this up. As always, I appreciate each and every one of you guys for being here and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. But I got to get out of here.
Can't stand it anymore. I've got to get out of here. I've got to get out of here. Calm down. Get a hold of yourself.
Stewardess, please let me handle this.
I've got to get
Calm down. Now get back to your seat. I'll take care of this. Calm down. Calm down. Get a hold of yourself.
Doctor, you're one on the phone. Everything's going to be all right. Please.
Sister, please, I'll handle this.
I've got to get out of here.